Hi friends. Today I just want to talk about humans and animal sacrifices. Thanks to my friend Biraj, who is ethnically a Nepali guy, and he was concerned about Gadi Mai festival in Nepal, which see lot and lot a large number of basically a large number of buffalo killing. Sometimes its number goes up to mass killing at a certain place, and sometimes mass killing goes up to 1 lakh buffaloes, for which the animal goes from India to Nepal. Certainly, the government have banned that kind of animal trafficking from India. But concern is not just about Gadi Mai festival. It includes several of the festivals in India and the world across, which goes on festival being linked to animal, its impact on environment, certainly, its impact on human psychology, and is it sustainable for the current level of population? And all we know that the transfer of energy from one organism to the next is just 10% energy transfer. So there is a concern that would this type of lifestyle is going to be sustained, and how over the history human life have adapted to these things and respond to the crisis around it. I would like to go in little past chance of Sapiens, a book by Yuval Noah Harari, was it human Homo sapiens have been hunters and gatherers since the beginning. Yeah, before 10,000 BC, humanity was surviving on gathering and hunting. It used to have almost all kind of animals to feed upon. Whatever it used to get, it used to feed on that. But since last 12,000 years or 12,500 years maybe, things have probably got changed a lot. But in yes, it certain some societies it have not that changed that much. Maybe the reasons are much more. If we look into ponder into it a little bit, maybe the new corona crisis will ponder around in this, and it's from jump from animal origin to the human origin. There are several conspiracy theories, but we will stick to its food part only of wet market theory. And I would also like to say one of my teachers in Vajiram and Ravi said this religion is the opium of masses. A little bit is the understanding I had before, but complete understanding the what and confidence when revolved around this topic. A lot of thanks goes to our Dojaso for building a better perspective. He calls what I said earlier, religion is the opium of masses. We would ponder around this subject too. But what happened around 10,000 BC, the agricultural revolution, and we all are aware about the pyramids of Egypt. It is the first place where the agricultural revolution seems to have taken place. And it changed the nature of human diet. And it is said that around 5000 BC, according to certain research, humans developed language. And all that goes to the change in humans' dietary pattern. And there is something, a drastic change in human vocal cord that enabled them to pronounce certain modifications in his speech. And you can see the modulation in my own voice, certain modulations that which go up over the time. But population 10,000 BC ago, even in that case, around 30 to 40,000 BC, we come to know about there were Neanderthals who were being wiped out by this our own ancestors, Homo sapiens, and certain Neanderthals still survive, which is in our runs in our genetic codes, mostly of European. It is said that, but maybe a little. Who knows if the Aryans came to India, we might also have been carrying certain part of the Neanderthal genes, or may not be. So our genetic evolution over the time with our geographical change, such as melatonin, which is responsible for the darkening of the skin in response to the sun heat. So our entire process of evolution depended upon the geographical availability of the food, our population, and the technological changes after that. If we look at the current generation, our animal diet is certainly limited, and the source of animal food is also very limited. Means we are having a very limited, as no Harari says, we are all across the world around 15 cereals and foods, entire humanity and its livestock is also surviving upon largely, except certain ranches in Australia which are feeding on its wild, or in Africa. The famous Maasai community which feeds upon the blood of tradition of the blood, drinking the blood of the cow, not milking the cow. And China had a certain disadvantage in part of agriculture, being one of the world's largest population, despite the one-child policy last 40 years. Now they have lifted it not to two-child policy, but being the world largest population and just with a 10% of its entire land mass being cultivable, Whereas in we India, we are smaller, landlocked, la- not landlocked, a smaller proportion of our, we have just 2%, 2.2% around of the world's geographical area, but we have 50% of that being cultivable. With the monsoon rates feeding it, without any even without any technological intervention, we were having 30 crore of our population around South Asian population. Today certainly South Asia, Asia, India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan being fed without any technological revolution at the time. Before, even before Green Revolution, we had around population of 40 to 50 crores. Not wrong, if I'm not wrong. So we needed certain things to supplement our diet even after the agricultural revolution. Sometimes our animal livestock we had to, there was certainly a occurrence of regular famines in the eastern part. We hear of several times in the modern Indian history in the British Raj that there were several famines in Bengal and Bihar especially, and that used to force people to search anything as a reserve of energy or food. Even if you have not saw anything like that, Andy, if you can't imagine, I would recommend you to watch the movie Trapped. I recently watched that. How he's so, how in that movie a person locked in, trapped inside his apartment survives and finally escapes. And for because of that reason, in Bihar there is a mouse eating culture still. Maybe in some part of Odisha, and people still eat mouse. Certain now we have a access of reserve, and it is felt a low class affair to feed on mice, and it's being certainly being discouraged by government and many more organizations. And we have built an efficient feeder system, certainly, which is distributing, you know, family of 25 kg of rice ration. That's not bad enough with this our Manrega program to feed the people. Though the family size still remains questionable, but still we are not having that a great situation. Still, that is straight out of our society still find its cheap protein in certain animals like that. The small animals, some insects in the insects. I don't think that I can't not specify insects, but still we hear in certain news stories from the tribal belt in India. The people feeding on insects. So it's the rational way of surviving the most difficult circumstances. In fact, in when we read R.S. Sarma, the NCRT, old NCRT class 11th by Ancient History, on Ancient History by R.S. Sarma, he says, he writes in that during the rise of the Magadhan period, I just write want to quote the chapter which he ever written there. Wait a minute, man. Territorial states and the first Magadhan Empire, in which is right, there was even the price of mices being paid in coin. Means the extent of it shows that even the mice was a part of our dietary habit. Though the plague changed a lot for the world, as the urbanization grew, the contact between human and animal grew, and one defecating, other eating, another eating the same had certainly some casualties. That is always why how viruses get transferred into mixed up. That there came certain degree of problems. There is certain challenge also when we are going through the phase of coronavirus. There is a lot of research going on. Recently, I saw the news, and there were around five agencies working on this antivirus drug. But it reminds me of the story that I have listened and read somewhere, that this HIV vaccine, not HIV virus, is the result of such an hurry project. We to find out a vaccine for polio. So we have find out a vaccine for polio, and we have eradicated almost from polio from the planet. But we have evolved due to the mistake of some scientists. We have brought an animal chimpanzee virus, HIV virus, into the human food, for which we are struggling to find a treatment. Though it have certain positive effect on the insect, that it had made have made humans much more responsible while having sex. Reproductive responsibility have increased certainly. It's responsible, not responsible, more responsible sexual behavior in order to control the fertility rate have definitely got decreased due to the use of this thing. And even in the business of prostitution, where the women were forced to be the mothers of enormous child, that part also. So going back to this concept of sacrifice and religion, I have wrote down certain arguments that usually being presented by the priestly class in the religions across. Says they say that and argue that animal sacrifice is a mechanism of invoking manliness and the fighting spirit, fearlessness in humans. It makes the men more men. but I have certain counter arguments. Is it not making the children's to be insensitive, inhuman, brutal, cruel against those who were a little on disadvantage against them, and again in return fear this the other guy, the jungle, the other guy who is more powerful? Isn't it invoking about the jungle law when we are 7 billion plus people, and we have reached become the so superior animal on the planet because social organization and social organization, but such a complex social organization of 7 billion people and our technological progress is not because of that. Law of fear doesn't work in organizing 7 billion people. And in that, by using this law, most of the religions, if they were few free even today, the French Revolution, American Revolution, and the Communist Revolution didn't had happened, half of our population would have been deprived of all these privileges, and they would have been on the receiving end of the brutality by the other half. What that other half means, you know, no, it's a gender part. Men's dominating women, and just 1% or little more, less than even 1% people, not even 1%, those who have reached the mighty, being inflicting pain on the other, and this whole cycle of being in pain. And what Buddha says that this world is full of sorrow. That becomes true, very true. And suffering. Life is dukkha. But coming back to this sacrifice tradition, I have a list listed down five of them. Mahastami, the Durga famous Durga festival, Puja festival in the eastern part of India. On Ashtami, there is a Pathabali. Earlier, they used to sacrifice buffaloes, but with later evolution and the cost factor, they started sacrificing the goats. Now there is certain awareness in this Brahmanical society, in Indian Brahmanical society, especially in the eastern part. Last year there was a news that said we would not sacrifice this Pathabali, rather than we should sacrifice the cucumber or pumpkin. But there is another perspective which could have evolved for the betterment of humanity, is that this sacrifice is not of the animal, it is the sacrifice of the devil inside you. What is that devil? The devil of lust, short sightedness. The the level that doesn't allow the human to evolve into a much better being, is still being tempted, driven by his hormonal impulses, which is a part of his inheritance, animal inheritance, which is basically for doing for survival. But to make this world painless, you have to bring certain coherence between the death threat and the birth threat. Transferring this energy to being a better being for the further development of humanity, bringing certain level of coherence and betterment of the planet so that the human could coexist with the animal. The vast, the nature, the earth is still a vast reservoir of knowledge, which is just unexplored. We can put a little bit of effort in that. Not the using of psychology for the driving capitalism there, of which certainly the wet market is a result of because we had put this animal rearing into the large scale factory production, and a large population gets unemployed, and that unemployed population needed something, some livelihood, and that live for livelihood you started using opening of some kind of wet market where all the exotic animals from the wild is reared in the small farms by the small farmers, and so he can sell it at the higher prices of the rare, as in rare commodity, luxury on the plate. Earlier I said that in China just 10% of the soil is cultivable. There was, yeah, there was certain, and we all know about Chinese medicine which uses animal for the treatment of diseases, animal parts. But it is certainly more. Even those animals are being brought into the market, and which were not the part of the diet of the Chinese society. And even in China, it is not a small nation. In China, there are several diverse societies. We, the human origin has been the part of the certain tribal groups coming together. Homo sapiens once separated in different regions. They have got a distinct genetic evolution, and then whatever you eat according to this your movement, and you have built in resistance against that certain viruses over the period of time. But and what is in your food habit? But just because of promoting on a state level certain commodities, as in royal and elite preferences of food, and has certain negative consequences. And it is said that it is just the result of that. You can't promote such an exotic variety of animal life which carries such certain degree of viruses into the human, entire human race, which have not built in resistance against that. We see a lot against even there are gluten free diet and certain things like that. This certain people are not even able to have, drink milk. There is even classification on that basis. A2 type, A1 type on milk. But when it becomes a part of certain of a sense of elitism, then people go for exploring something in the void, and who knows, this coronavirus. Yeah, but again back to the all this story is not enough. But back to this Gadi Mai festival, Bakrid festival, which is going to be after Ramjan, Bali Chadra festival in Odisha, Kamakhya temple hills are ritual around this. And yeah, it is not just a part of Islamic society that we can feel, middle class Indian especially, like fools like me, who feels that is a part of a certain Islamic culture. It is not just Islamic. It is a part of entire human evolution and the scarcity of resources, which was art of human, but it was turned into certain kind of festival because it was getting the livestock resources was getting scarce. And even the concept of Buddhism which evolved in India, and from where the birth of this Vaishnavism, Vaishnavism arrives in Hinduism. As in page number 90, R.S. Sharma writes that, I write, I read it. The agricultural economy was based on iron plough. Around 600 BC, Share plough share required the use of bullocks, and it could not flourish without animal husbandry. But the Vedic practice of killing cattle indiscriminately in sacrifices stood the way of the progress of the new agriculture. The cattle wealth slowly decimated because the cow and bullocks were killed in numerous Vedic sacrifices. The tribal people living in the southern and in eastern fringes of Magadha also killed cattle for food. Means the Aryans were not the only eating these animals, but the tribal people in India who were pre-Aryan also used to kill animals. So when you go towards the eastern part of India, it is a mix of certain degree of tribal culture and Aryan culture, both based on the same thing, animal sacrifice, because the animal was the only the one of like a supplement, a diet, a part of integral part of the human diet, and it maybe some certain precious commodity of the time. The tribal people living in the southern and in eastern fringe of Magadha also killed cattle for food, but if the new agrarian economy had to be stable, this killing had to be stopped. So we see a response in the form of journalism, which prohibit any kind of killing. and on and strict routines. It focuses on avoidance of indulging in sexual behavior so that human number of human beings could be checked. The pressure on the land, agricultural land for agriculture, could be reduced. Mass killing could be stopped of animals, and there must have been certain diseases also when the society was urbanized at the time. It was not as enormous urbanization, but technology was that only. No, they didn't have the tap water like us, so there must have been a certain degree of disease control. And when Jainism says about not wearing a clothes, it tries to do what it tries to do. It tries to build self-regulation, bringing self-regulation on your sexual behavior. And in India, certainly there could not have been certain burqa and all that, considering the situation of Magadha location, where the humidity is still so high that even mm, those who claim to be culturally Arabic Muslims, they even have to wear lungi. Unlike that in Arabia, where they covered entire face and entire body manifold. There is, it is hot in Arab world, but it is not humid, as like in eastern part of India, around Bay of Bengal. The region which is gets influenced by Bay of Bengal and the eastern monsoon are receiving 100 to 200 degrees, 200 centimeter of rainfall with 45 degrees Celsius plus temperature in the summer, where the sweat doesn't stop, and the sweat is where sweat is where there is a scope of fungus. It certainly have dual advantages. In Saudi Arabian society, where there was scarcity of food resources, they put external protection in the form of covering of them, covering, so that it doesn't give a push to your hormonal upsources. Could be a form, a right from the part of the world. Was this Gadimai festival a way to check access of the cattle population? It could be. But there was also situation in 600 BC that that transformed the Vedic religion to be a Vedic Vaishnavite religion post Buddha era. new focus on agricultural economy, which was having enough surpluses to feed and which needed enough cattle to cultivate the land, plow the land. Transportation was certain on one degree. Um, Currently, there is going on cattle trade ban in India, and I believe even this restriction is not right. Our farmer can't afford this non-productive cattle, so we need to have certain degree of flexibility in animal sacrifices is needed here also. But should they and the animal sacrifices be in a form of public display or a part of the cultural festival where we teach children in the masses how it is sacrificed and how to increase your masculinity. And fighting spirit. When the population of human are around 7 billion, and do we have enough resources to rear livestock, or the earth have enough spaces to rear the livestock for 7 billion people, of 7.5 billion today, with the 10% transfer rate? There are certain questions. There is always, whenever you go to, why there is so much controversy, there is question, but these are all right. But why there is certain so much controversy when we talk about rationality and religion? Because the priestly class which controls the masses, which have told certain kind of stories, and by which stories they are able to organize people for and command them authority. They seem that by if their practices are not being conducted, and if people become part away from these rituals, their control over the ceremonies would get diminished. So they doesn't fear this culture thing, and there is nothing called the culture which is under threat, or the religion is under threat. It is the threat in the minds of the priestly class. I'm not talking about the Muslim or Hindu. Every priestly class does the same thing. It is the inherent fear in the priestly class that if there is some external change in ritual, religion, there might the old stories that they have said, how do they justify this change? So till they don't get a new story, and the people's belief from this ritual and religious affair decline, their authority is going to decline. And there are certain talks about non-vegetarian and vegetarianism. I would say that we need to balance between the two. If 125 billion, 1.25 billion people, 1.35, I'm certain, right now it's 1.35 billion people start eating animal products, we would be facing a famine. If 1.25 billion people, 1.35 billion people becomes a vegetarian, then and there is a still a ban on animal sacrifice, then we should be ready to modify a lot of our lifestyle habits. We would have to say goodbye even to our milk products, which have become so integral part of our diets. So both the cases are not recommendable, but there need to be a certain balance. But how that balance is in flux. The society, the market pricing system would always strive to do. But the problem starts there when you kill on certain animals on such a mass scale in the name of religion and rituals. Because it forces everyone to do the same thing. So they are going to be. And there is a huge amount of wastage of the food resources. Not for not absent food resource for human, but they are food resource for many carnivore animals. We are certainly taking away their right to have food to eat. But it has been long lecture and long talk, yeah.